Termites, it's our last night. Isn't that sad? I'll miss this part of it, but maybe it'll come back if, I don't know. Who knows? You never know. But the end is kind of sad, but what are you going to do? This is what happened. This is life. Liberace was determined to make one more set of appearances at Radio City Music Hall. And he was going to make them more sensational than before. This time he would make his entrance flying. Flying! See? Pink. Cyndi Lauper. It's already been done. Liberace's been flying around New York way before you all even thought about it. He arrived in New York in mid-October, set up housekeeping in Trump Tower, with an extra apartment for his costumes. Oh, my God. He began planning the entrance by wire, a stunt that had dazzled audiences at the Nevada casinos. Fuck yeah, it's great. The first act finale would be a tribute to the Statue of Liberty's centennial, with Miss Liberty holding a candelabra and Liberace arriving in a Stars and Stripes Rolls Royce and wearing an... Oh, I forgot to say what I'm drinking. Sorry. Kings of Leon. It's a wonderful little Nashville product. It's a wonderful light American lager. There you go. I always say it, and I forgot. And I like their can, too. A lot of good can designs lately. Cheers to who's ever doing that. As always, Liberace shrugged off any questions about his retirement. His ambition was to end his career in the style of Yul Brynner. Huh, how was that? I have no idea. How'd he end his career? Yul Brynner? I only remember him as in the Ten Commandments. I know he had a big career. I just don't know it. He was just as brilliant in his last performance as he was in his first. If I thought for a moment that my performance gave the impression I was failing, I wouldn't do it. But I don't like to dwell on thoughts like that. That's not the magic of believing. When people ask you about retirement and you don't want to, you tell them to shut their mouths. Just shut your mouth. Was he failing? At times, he seemed to have the same high spirits. He practiced the flying enthusiastically and laughed because he always landed facing toward the audience towards the back of the stage. Don't worry, I've got 3 weeks to get it right. It was obvious that Liberace was not well. He was affable to the stage crew, but the camaraderie of the two previous engagements were lacking. There was no stream of visitors to the dressing room. Kerry James was that's the 19-year-old boyfriend, ever present, telling people he was resting. As soon as the performance ended, Liberace left the theater. At his request, there was no big opening night party, only a gathering at Maxwell Plum's for the closest to him, Carrie, Angie, his sister, her children, Gladys and Dorothy, Seymour, and of course a few others. Phyllis Diller, yay, Phyllis Diller, flew in from California. Liberace's health was the subject of backstage conjecture. Obviously, he was ill, but what could it be? There was talk of emphysema, and Liberace himself kidded about ending up in an iron lung. Even with rhinestones, I couldn't make one attractive. It's pretty funny. He continued smoking 2 or 3 packs of Carltons a day. I've tried a Carlton. I can't see it. There ain't much to them. The final performance, came on Monday, November 3rd. A Monday show? You don't want to end on a Monday. Saturday. At the opening, 2 of the glittering costumes sailed through the air, and then came Liberace himself, soaring above the mammoth stage like Peter Pan, trailing a cape of silvery scales edged in purple feathers. He returned to Earth, miraculously facing the audience for the first time. The 5,874 people in Music Hall roared their welcome. 2.5 hours later, he'd given them everything he could. 6 costume changes, 4 cars, 3-minute Gershwin, Chopin and Strauss, a dance with the Rockettes, a maid-in-the-bathroom routine, a waltz with a woman from the audience. Oh my God, that lady probably never got over that. And an offer to let fans feel the costumes. The "you paid for it, and now I own it" and now I own the bank jokes, and a Christmas medley. Finally, I'll be seeing you. Oh. They stood in the wings crying. Angie, who'd pushed her brother in a baby carriage. Seymour Heller, who'd attended almost every Liberace performance for 34 years. Kerry James, the companion and protector. Ray Arnett, who'd toured with Liberace for 30 years and produced the music hall shows. Eric Hamlin, the 14-year pianist whose career Liberace had fostered. And Denise Collier, the press agent who'd become devoted to Lee. Then it was over. Aww. No other performer came close. He had sold over 300,000 tickets. A Liberace-style cake was wheeled out, 6-tier, all white. The management presented him with the original posters advertising the engagement, and he responded with a toast. I love you all. And then they asked him, we want to talk about the hall next year. Can we talk about it? He didn't respond. He seemed distracted, as if he hadn't heard the question. It seemed odd to Felton. Always before Lee would grab at a suggestion. He departed after under an hour. Underneath, what was wrong? Phyllis Diller knew. 2 months before, Liberace and Bob Hope had appeared on the Merv Griffin show, saluting Phyllis's 30th anniversary in show business. When Lee walked on stage, beaming under heavy makeup, she felt an instant, breathtaking terror. His face was angular, not cherubic. Nobody uses the word cherubic anymore, but John Panette did. I have the face of a cherub. Ah. And she recognized something in his eyes that she'd seen in other friends she had lost in recent times. Dear God, she gasped inwardly, he has AIDS. Yeah. And then they go through the history of the virus, but we all know that part. I don't need to go through all that part of how they figured out what it was and all that. Then he went on Oprah. I have to go see this. Lee was in a state of exhilarance for a time. Oh boy, he enthused. I'm starting a year's vacation. Think of it, a whole year to do the things I've been putting off all these years. I told Seymour, don't schedule anything. I want to travel and relax. I want to rent one of those, what do you call them, recreational vehicles. Didn't even know what they're called. And camp out in the wilderness with the dogs. I want to take a trip on the Orient Express. Oh yes, I want to rent a railroad car and make a circle tour of the United States, hitching rides on trains. That's something I really want to do. But first he had unfinished business selling the wonderful private world of Liberace. He had returned to New York for a television talk show. In Chicago, he was the sole guest on the Oprah Winfrey Show. I'm going to have to go look at that episode. Despite Seymour's concern about his appearance, he seemed gaunt and shallow, and heavy makeup could not disguise his haggard appearance. The show was taped in late November and broadcast on December 30th. Oh, and he loved Christmas, you know, because he had to promote his book. He looked terrible. Nothing. People were saying, "What's the matter?" Nothing, dear. I went a little overboard on the diet. Oh my God. I mean, I guess you can say that, but you know people are going to believe it. But maybe he didn't want to tell people. He made the same excuse to guests at the party, but this explanation did not stop them from worrying. Liberace had a joyful reunion with his children, the Chinese Shar-Peis, Wrinkles, his special protector, the Prunella. Okay, he goes through the dogs. We don't know. But they couldn't imagine that he was really sick. Nobody could imagine he was really that sick if he could endure 21 performances at Music Hall and a book tour. The face changed with the loss of weight, surgical nips tucked and tightened. The makeup couldn't hide the cruel caricature of Liberace. He saw few visitors besides Franza and Fossler and his dear friend Tito Miner. Those were the neighbors, Franza and Fossler. He was visited by his doctor. The guests at the Malibu Christmas party wondered why Liberace had not given his usual Palm Springs celebration. Please don't inquire about my health. I'm on the road to recover. When I feel better, I will call you. The signature read Liberace. His associates puzzled. They hadn't known he was ill. How serious was it? Did he have leukemia like George? Why would he issue a letter to inform people? Was it really his signature? What's wrong with him? Jamie James asked. I don't know, Seymour admitted. So Gladys Lucky in tears said, did you get this letter? I don't understand what's going on. It's so unlike him to send a cold letter. What is happening? I don't know what to do anymore. On January 22nd, Liberace signed a document that began, I, Liberace, also sometimes known as Walter Valentino Liberace, Lee Liberace, and Valdez Valentin Liberace, domiciled in Las Vegas, Nevada, it's his last will and testament! Oh, God. The day after signing, Liberace entered the Eisenhower Medical Center. The hospital announced that he was suffering from anemia and would remain for test and evaluation. Citing knowledgeable sources, Jeffrey German declared that Liberace had displayed symptoms of AIDS, decline of appetite and energy, loss of 20 to 30 pounds. So, not so, insisted Seymour Heller. I never heard the words AIDS mentioned by anyone. Liberace had lost the pounds on a watermelon diet. Maybe I'll do that. I love watermelon. I'd probably lose 10 pounds. That'd be great, right? Franza and Fossler visited Lee in the hospital, and they found him cheerful but impatient with the hospital routine. When they called for him on Monday after his last weekend stay, his feet were tapping in the wheelchair. "Let's get moving. I want to get home to my children." He means his dogs. By Tuesday, it became apparent that the severity of Liberace's could no longer be veiled by optimistic pronouncements and watermelon diets. Angie Farrell arrived from Las Vegas to help care for her brother. She knew Lee as intimately, and she had noticed something ominous when he left Las Vegas in September after his Caesar Palace engagement. He had shipped his favorite Rolls Royce to Palm Springs, and she suspected he believed he would never return to Vegas. Aww. Gladys gave no hint at her apprehension after the arrival at the cloister. She cheerfully cooked his favorite dinners, meatloaf. I love meatloaf. Patented fried chicken and dumplings. Yeah. I would have loved to have eaten with this guy. He likes all the same shit. It's all bad for you, but it's really good. He remained in the Napoleon bedroom, surrounded by dogs and his energy ebbing. He watched entertainment shows on TV, but newscasts were purposely kept from him so he would not be alarmed by the attention being paid to his illness. A few close friends were allowed to see him, with cautions to keep their visits short. By Friday, Lee seemed more alert. He was eating solid food and able to sit up. But the improvement was temporary. The decline resumed, and the bulletins from Denise Collier in New York grew more somber. Liberace was dying. The death watch had begun. The reporters swarmed the house, and the number of journalists would swell to 50 when an announcement was imminent, diminished to a handful at dinner time, then grow again. By midnight, only 2 or 3 remained for the all-night vigil. One Palm Springs resident told reporters that she had driven by Liberace's every Christmas since 1962 and had enjoyed the decorations. Yeah, I bet he'd be a great neighbor for that, too. His condition worsened over the weekend. He seemed to be in no pain and took no medicine, but his pulse grew weaker and breathing more labored. He was moved from the bedroom to the lighter, sunnier sitting room, which had been his favorite place. On Sunday morning, Fonza came next door and said, "Angie and I are going to Mass. Do you want to come along?" He smiled. "I wish I could. I'll just stay here and watch my shows." He was playing, he liked the Golden Girls, and Betty White was his friend. This is getting so sad. I'm glad I haven't had a lot of liquor. I'd be bawling by now. It was terrible. Whose idea was this? Right, mine. By Monday morning, he could only respond with yes or no questions. The room was filled with flowers from Elton John, Tom Jones, Tony Orlando, hey, and 4 roses from a bush outside that Dorsey had nursed back from extinction. That evening, he was unable to speak at all. "I don't think there's much time. I don't know if he's going to be a day or 2. I just don't think there's that much more time." Jamie James arrived from L.A. He was shocked to see the man he'd always known to be pulsing with vitality. Now the skin was colorless. The color was gone. Liberace seemed to notice nothing, not even the sunburst of photographer's lights when someone arrived or left the house. The outside hubbub was not audible in the room that he was in. Among the tapes of the new album of Broadway tunes, he had Barbra Streisand's, which he enjoyed. "You can go ahead and talk to him. I think he may be able to understand you." Tuesday, another day of the vigil, Dr. Daniels came to the house and noticed no change in his condition. Lee seemed to give a flicker of recognition when the dogs appeared, but the steady stare returned. Oh. Only Angie, Tito, and the nurse were in the room shortly before 11 when Tito noticed Liberace's breath growing slower. The nurse took his pulse and detected no change, but the breaths became fainter. At 11:02, with a long sigh, Liberace died. Oh. And then they reported. Then they just report at the end. Shirley MacLaine said Lee was the nicest person in show business. Debbie Reynolds said one of a kind, like all of the beautiful treasures he collected. Mickey Rooney, he was one of the greatest entertainers I'd ever known. I loved him, as did the work. Phyllis McGuire, remember the McGuire sisters? I barely do either. Not only was he a dear friend, he was a beautiful artist. Red Skelton termed Liberace the P.T. Barnum of the symphony halls. I hope the cynics don't make a circus of his death. God wouldn't like that. Oh, way to throw it down, Red. God wouldn't like that. CBS showed a clip of Liberace in the 50s, person to person, an interview with Edward Almaro declaring, I remember being very poor once and making a promise to myself if I could do anything about it with God's help, I'd never be poor again. The CBS account closed with Liberace at the piano singing, I'll be looking at the moon, but I'll be seeing you. I think that's a good place to end. I'll be looking at the moon, but I'll be seeing you. Where? Termites out on the road. Let's get out of sad times. Boom! 2021, it's happening. 2022. So many things are already booked, but I can't say them. I can't say them until the tickets are on sale. If you go to my website, when they are on sale, though, they will be posted. Well, I'll do videos, and then there'll be links, but I can't say that, or I'll get in big trouble. All right, termites. I'm still here in the podcast. All termites are welcome. That's like not really my act. That's just me being stupid, which is fun too, right? You're worthy termites. You're loyal termites. You stuck through it. I'm going to give this away. I will mail this. I will sign this and mail this to whoever wants it. So whoever pops up first with an address on Instagram, that's who's going to get it. First come, first serve. I can't make anything more fair than that, right, termites? You want it? I loved it. I'd read it again if I was bored. All right. And remember, as I send you out into the world, you're worthy termites. You're wonderful. You're grand term. You're not the grand termite, but you're grander termites. You're not the grand termite. You're devoted. You're loyal. You're just great termites. Night-night termites.